So one day in the apiary, the bees all seemed to be just fussy the whole day. And so I figured some robbing was going on. And so I sat down on that Coleman cooler and started working my way down the hives, putting on those window screen tunnels. I get to this one, and all of a sudden, I realize it's loud.
Well, I think I've got a swarm coming in. There's a lot of bees in the air right about now. And indeed, it did turn out to be a swarm. I went on to get 4 swarms in the month of July. So let's take a look at those, and I'll also discuss why I think I got them. This is a pill bottle. It's a pill bottle. So here's a valuable tip that I'm going to go ahead and pass off to you. If you want to find the swarm's queen, take a mated queen in a cage where she's safe and introduce it to the swarm. The swarm's queen will go to the cage because it's competition. And I actually thought these bees didn't have a queen, and so I introduced this mason jar lid with rubber band and window screen on it so the queen I put there was safe. And when I went to remove it, the swarm's queen was walking on the cage trying to get to that queen. This is the swarm from the opening scenes. The pill bottle scented lure is inside. The green rim around the entrance is a bottle cap, like the neck, and the lid with a hole drilled into it. And it's all lined with some propolis to kind of smooth off any rough edges. It keeps the rain from going into the swarm trap. It's just, just a short little piece there. The lid is inverted, and I have put on there some good compost soil, some good forest floor soil, some rainwater, and some moss. And I kind of pushed back I went back and actually put in more and sort of pushed back a little space so the bees could climb down and get directly to the water or the mud if that's what they wanted. It collects rain. It keeps the trap substantially cooler and gives the bees a reason to go to this swarm lure. The other thing is I would put this on all of my hives that are in the sun. Just put a piece of plastic, tray down and do this because it will keep your hives cool at the top. You will not have a hot lid anymore once you do that. The compost soil keeps the water cool too. So it's a great source of water for the bees, much cleaner than getting the roadside ditch or going to the cow pasture. And so just bees are going to go for whatever's closest and easiest. And if you're looking to reroute them, this will be a great way to do it. Well, swarm arrived again today to the pill bottle queen. This swarm is a pill bottle scented lure attached to a fly swatter hanging from the canopy, and it's got window screen draped over it. The window screen has propolis on it. There's a video on that, all the propolis and the pill bottle screen on my channel. Notice that the bees are bringing pollen into it already. It may just be foragers. To get them off, I went ahead and put a frame. I hung the fly swatter contraption from a frame and let them drift up on it. Had brood food, all those great and wonderful things, and they finally went up there. But the queen was really hesitant to leave that lure part that's down at the bottom. The July 14th swarm was a bit unusual. Believe it or not, there is a queen in there. They arrived sort of one by one, just drifting gently side to side in, almost like an abscond. The best I could think of was that it was a virgin queen. They came in very late. It just took them hours, all afternoon, late into the evening, and I left them up there for a couple days. The trap itself is a medium, cut in half with drawn comb. That's actually what's in the styrofoam container, and obviously you can see the scented pill bottle lure. The July 20th swarm, I almost kicked them and missed them. That wheel is actually hollow, and they are crammed up into the wheel and the axle and underneath the tote and on the other side. So I had a terrible time trying to get that queen out of there. I'm not sure why they landed on the ground. There was a piece of wax comb there. Perhaps that's what attracted them. But that day, all my hives had been sort of fussy and, kind of cranky, I guess is the way. They're flying around. And I see that before a swarm's coming in. It's almost like scouts are trying to get in and the hives are saying, no, this seat's taken, type of thing. So usually when I see that, it means somebody's trying to look for a home. So this year, I decided that I was going to focus on luring in swarms from around me, and I didn't have any bees on the property. And I was very successful at it. In fact, I set up one swarm station, was very successful with it, took it down, and to set up another swarm station, probably about 25-30 yards, and it's been very successful in July. Now, I've noticed some possible contributing factors that seem to be consistent with both times. Shelter, food, water, and a scent lure. The first area I want to focus on is food. If you look on my YouTube channel, you'll see that I have been conducting pollen plus flaxseed oil experiments early this month, and I really believe that was a very big contributing factor.
It's July 2nd, 2022. This video is demonstrating the bee behavior when presented with pollen that was in the freezer from last year with flaxseed oil added to it.
The bees devoured the pollen. It's 1/2 cup of ground pollen, 1 capsule, which is 1,000 milligrams of flaxseed oil, and it's 1 tablespoon of granulated sugar. And they cleaned it out rapidly. And then they came back to late in the evening and worked the dirt in some furious attempt to get the remnants of whatever had dropped. The next day I ran a test to see if the bees preferred pollen or pollen plus flaxseed oil. The next component will be the scent lure, and there you can see the setup with the fly swatter, the propolis screen, window screen, and the pill bottle scented lure. And the pill bottle scented lure has been in everything that I've caught since for the month of July. I started putting it out at the very end of June. And that's also when this, after that, then I started getting a lot of traffic, and bees would hang out on that overnight as well. I've been using lemongrass oil. It's like only 1 drop of lemongrass oil. I didn't have any visitors to the one that had just a smidge of Swarm Commander on there. It doesn't take much. Everything is really potent. And I think on one of them I put lemongrass oil and lemon gum tree crushed up. That one, if I'm not mistaken, got a swarm as well. Finally, there's shelter and water to consider. These two actually go hand in hand. This is the first swarm that started it all, and it was positioned in the most unlikely of places across from my husband's garage. What an amazing swarm to catch your first attempt at luring swarms to your yard. And that we left that swarm there in that location for sentimental value. And it inspired me to go ahead and set up all these different boxes and shelters that bees can make a home in, more boxes, buckets, styrofoam containers. And I didn't get a swarm in any of those. What I did get a couple weeks later was a swarm on the other side of these trees in the bumblebee's nest, which was a nuke, a brand new nuke, swarm nuke, that was dangling from the tree limbs, and it was filled with sweatpants that had been cut up. All the other options had comb and things of that nature, but this one didn't. What it did have was it had moss underneath it. Wet moss and soil that was very composted. And so it got me thinking that that's maybe the part that we miss when we're setting up these swarm traps. We forget that trees in the shade usually have moss growing on them. And so when I started taking a look at it, I realized there's moss on the ground where there's the leaves in the cool shade. There's moss at the water station, at the area where, the pond, the creek, the lake, on the rocks. There's moss in the grass. You'll also see that green algae stuff that usually is some type of moss as well. And so I started putting moss on top of my hives, my bait hives. And if my hives were in the full sun, I would put that on there too, as I said earlier, because it does create shade. The dark soil, the compost, it provides nutrition. When I set up a swarm trap, now I'm putting some of that mucky mud, that forest mud, and some compost soil and some moss. When the rain comes down, the moss will retain the moisture. It's just something to think about when you're creating a new home, because keep in mind, like I said earlier, trees have moss and they absorb moisture, and perhaps maybe that's why bees like to go in the shade. So what are your thoughts on this matter? Please post your thoughts, ideas, opinions, and suggestions in the comment section below. I love to hear it. As well, I want to thank you so much for watching. Please click the like and subscribe button to be notified as I release new footage.